We start with an elementary school student and her father back in Spokane after spending a month in ICE detention in South Texas. Carla Toole and her father Arnando were detained by ICE agents in early January. They were released earlier this month. The Spokane immigrant rights nonprofit Latinos in Spokane says the family is originally from Guatemala but has lived in Spokane for several years. Latinos in Spokane says Arnando has a work permit and legally works in the United States. They say he has no criminal history. We're getting a look at what they went through during that month in detention. Seattle Times reporter Nina Shapiro went to Spokane and spoke with the family. We're joined by Nina now. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
To start, how are Carla and Arnando, and where are they living now?
They seem like they're doing well. They're happy to be back. When I first saw them, they were in a hotel. So when they went to detention, they gave up the house where they were living. And so they were staying in a hotel for a while. But then a few days later, they moved to their own apartment.
How did they describe their time at the private detention center in Texas?
Yeah, it was interesting. So it's an unusual place because it's a family detention center. So it's very different from the kind of detention center we have here in Tacoma. They lived in the same room together where there were bunk beds and a TV and a sink. And there was kind of a community of kids that Carla was part of, and she made friends among them. And she seemed like she was very brave in handling it all. She said she wasn't scared. But there was, obviously things that were very difficult for them. It was hard to get medical care, and Carla was sick for the first few days, although she did end up getting medicine, and she did end up seeing a nurse. There was no or not much school. So school was an hour a day, and all the grades were together. So there wasn't any grade level instruction at all. And they heard that the teachers just showed movies. And so Carla didn't end up going to school at all. And so, her dad felt like basically she and the other kids there were just kind of wasting their time there, not learning anything, not doing anything, watching TV a lot, that kind of thing.
And as you mentioned, Dilley does have children at its detention centers, and you just explained conditions. Anything else that stuck out for the children's experience there from your reporting?
Well, I think that they were aware of each other's situation. So, Carla said that the hardest thing was when she actually left them, because she was aware that they would be there longer than she was. So there is a legal settlement where kids are only supposed to be held 20 days, but actually she met kids there who had been there for 4 months or 5 months. And so they're going all this time. They don't know when they're going to go out. They're not really having school. And so this kind of community was very, on the one hand, they seemed to support each other, and on the other hand, it was very temporary. And then when people left because they were deported or they decided to go back to their own country, they cried as they left each other. So I think for a month, Carla did pretty well, considering where she was, and that she was locked in and her movements were restricted. But I think if it had dragged on longer, it would have been much harder for her, and certainly for her dad to see her there. And I know her dad felt like, why is she in jail? She didn't do anything wrong. Why is she locked up like this?
Well, speaking of children, your article mentions Liam Ramos, the Minnesotan child who gained international attention after ICE detained the 5-year-old and then released him. Did that saga help get Carla and Arnando out?
Their lawyer thinks it did influence the decision. So what happened was that ICE just release them with no explanation. So they had a lawyer who had filed a lawsuit on their behalf in Texas. And just a few days before came a very scathing ruling in that case that you mentioned of the 5-year-old that was also sent to Dilley, and ordered him released. And it was just very critical of the government detaining children and traumatizing children. And so the lawyer thinks that might have been influential in ICE not wanting to see the case through.
Well, what have ICE and Border Patrol told you regarding Carla and Arnaldo?
So the Border Patrol said that they came illegally. First of all, they had applied for asylum, but they had been put into an alternatives for detention program, which allows people to be in the community while their cases are pending. But they said that Arnaldo had missed a number of check-ins with ICE since he was released in 2019. And so it's unclear exactly, whether that's true or why that happened. I know that the organization, the nonprofit organization that's been helping the family, has said that there were technical problems that caused them to miss at least some of the check-ins. So the check-ins often happen through apps that can be glitchy. So I don't know the full story behind why they may have missed those check-ins.
Well, Nina,
but in any case, they got him when he was dropping his child off at school.
well, that's definitely something to consider there. Nina, thank you for your time and thank you for your reporting.
Thanks so much.